Hello, everyone. Welcome to the LIU LearnOn webinar series. Today, we're going to be talking about helping parents navigate phonemic awareness. Many of you have possibly shared or joined in yesterday or today, but there are a few housekeeping tips that we need to go over before we start. I'll try and make it brief so we can get right into the webinar. To start off, my name is Jess Miller, and Becky Bloss is going to be helping narrate and move through our webinar today. Becky will be working through the question and answer pod. So if you have any questions that come up as we move through our webinar today, please feel free to type them in there and Becky will be able to help you out. She's also going to be adding information about the slide deck and some other things that you'll need to know throughout the webinar. So first of all, I wanted to say I am not ignoring you on purpose, but however, I am not going to share my live video until the end. We're trying our best to preserve bandwidth and make sure that the webinar goes off smoothly. So for now, you just get to see our pictures, but at the end, we will make sure we jump in so you can see us face to face. So let's go ahead and get started with some of our housekeeping items. Here you can see a list of everyone who has been working as a true team effort to try and bring you these webinars and help you out in the best way we can during this challenging time. Any of these people would be more than willing to help you with any problem or issue you might be having. So there they are for your information. Feel free to contact any of them if you need. So since we're moving through this webinar, there are some new norms that I'd like you to consider. We have a huge Zoom room today. So for that reason, we have the chat, the microphone, and the cameras disabled. So there isn't anything wrong with your system. We just have them disabled for these larger groups. It allows for less distractions and things to move a little more smoothly. As I said earlier, Becky will be in charge of the Q&A. Feel free to post some questions. We will attempt to answer as many of them as we can throughout the webinar today. But also Becky and I will be having office hours at 11 o'clock today to talk about any literacy issues that you might have or concerns that you might like to discuss. We also have at the bottom of your screen the raise your hand feature. If you would like to be able to ask your question online, we could unmute you to hear that. And a quick reminder, I know you all have many things on your minds and Act 48 credits might not be at the top of the list, but we want to make sure that you do not leave before the end of the webinar so that you can get the link and that you can get credit for participating in the webinar today. We already spoke a little bit about Act 48. This is for PA educators only as far as receiving the Act 48 credits. Anyone is welcome to join our webinars and hopefully this information is useful to them. However, for PA educators, you will be able to get Act 48 credits. You will need your PPID number at the end of the webinar for your credits. So if you don't have that with you or have it memorized, you might want to search around for it. And I believe Becky is going to drop into the link information about how you can find that if you don't have it. All of the webinars will be archived on the LearnOn website. So if you haven't been able to see some webinars that you're interested in, or you want to go back and review some information, they are available to you. And there's the link, but you can also access them from the LearnOn page. And there's the information about LearnOn. Also, we're going to try for all of our online learning and for our students as well, the continuity of education. We're attempting to continue educating them to the best of our ability in these unique times. We also want to keep in mind free, appropriate public education. This applies to online instruction all. So we need to keep in mind our special populations as well. And another concept that has come around through our distance learning is we also have to consider students' access to technology and internet and those things that we're needing for distance learning. Remember, these are some great best practices to consider no matter what kind of instruction you're providing, is that less is more. In this time, it's going to look different than it did in the past. So keep in mind, less is more. It's great to use videos with your students if possible. They want to see your faces and so do the parents. Interesting information that we have been talking about in our office is the importance of the amount of time we're spending with our students. Best practices are telling us that through this online learning format, pre-K students should be doing 30 minutes of work max a day. Kindergarten through first grade, 45 minutes. Second through third grade, 60 minutes. Fourth through fifth, 90 minutes. 6 through 12, 30 minutes per teacher with a maximum of 3 hours per day. It's very different than when we were in our classrooms and our brick and mortar buildings. We need to keep in mind that our students are going to have different challenges and different hurdles to overcome as they're learning from home. Something that in the classroom may have taken 10 minutes may end up taking a student 45 minutes or 5 minutes. So we have to keep a lot of those things in mind. Be clear with your expectations and your objectives, and identify time to complete tasks. All of these are great best practices that many of you have been doing for years. So now let's get into this webinar and our information that we're going to be sharing about phonemic awareness. Our goal today, we have 3 of them for you when you leave this webinar. First of all, the information that we're sharing with you is most likely not going to be new to you as a teacher. However, the information we're sharing for you are things that we hope you can use and help you share with parents, because the parents are now becoming their child's teacher. And while many of us may have had years and years of training on how to do these things, the parents have not. And they're being thrown in to a situation that they probably weren't prepared for and aren't sure how to move through. So our hope is that today when you leave, you will have ways that you can support parents directly from this webinar that can be of help to you and to them. We also want you to be able to explore some of the resources that we have available. Becky and I have picked out some resources that are very simple, short, straight to the point, that again, hopefully you can share directly with families. Maybe taking one little piece of work off of your plate, at least as you're getting started. We also want you at the end of this webinar to know how to access support, how to get a hold of Becky and I and other team members who are willing and able to help you out during this challenging time. So let's get started. Everybody, take a deep breath. We as educators are in a time and a place that has not happened before, and we don't want to be too hard on ourselves. We're all doing the best we can. One of our colleagues explained it this way to me, and it really stuck with me. He said, it's like we're building the airplane while we're flying it. We're doing things that we've never had to do before and have never thought about before. So just breathe and let's take it one step at a time. Please be patient with yourself, be patient with your students, be patient with your families. This is new for everyone. So just take it slow, give yourself the grace to do the best you can. If a mistake is made, a mistake is made. Let's fix it and move forward. We have to allow each other that grace and that ability to just breathe and be patient with one another. And try and be authentic. I know it's strange. It's certainly strange for me today, talking to a screen versus a group of people, but try and be yourself. Your students and the parents will appreciate that. So let's talk about phonemic awareness and how you can talk to parents about phonemic awareness. This idea has a lot of components in it. It has a lot of different things to consider. Parents aren't going to be able to take all of that in with everything that's going on in the world around them. They're working from home, they have multiple children they're trying to educate. So let's break down into a few simple things what parents need to know about phonemic awareness. One is that we want them to know that phonemic awareness deals with individual sounds and words. So we're talking about sounds, not the letters. Phonemic awareness is something that you can do in the dark or blindfolded. Parents don't need materials to do this. It's something that they can just talk through with their child. So really encouraging them to play with words and think of words as games. We also, as we said, they don't have to have the printed letters. It's just the sound. We also want students to be able to manipulate those sounds orally. So we want parents to understand that phonemic awareness is sounds and how we can manipulate and play with those sounds. Another important word that I think we need to share with parents is phonemes. Not because they necessarily would need to know that in their everyday life, but if you're sharing video clips or you're sharing activities with parents, a lot of the information has the word phonemes on it. So just clear up that terminology for parents before you begin. So let them know that phonemic awareness is sounds, that we're dealing with not the printed letters, but the actual sounds that are made, and that those individual sounds are called phonemes. Parents are always going to say, why is this important for my child? Why should I take time out of my busy, chaotic life right now and add this piece into our routine? And as educators, we know that this is a critical skill for reading and writing. It's important, if you're a good reader and a good writer, to have good phonemic awareness and to be able to manipulate those sounds. It's also important for parents to know that phonemic awareness isn't related to a person's IQ. This is a skill that needs to be practiced and learned and played with over time to help it grow. Again, another question that's very important right now. How much time should my child spend on this? Something small, 5 to 10 minutes. And what we really want parents to understand is that this doesn't have to be done in a formal learning setting. It doesn't have to be, let's sit down at the table and do a phonemic awareness lesson. This is a great skill or activity that can be done anywhere. If someone is, I was going to say trapped in the car, but most of us aren't in the car right now. You're trapped in your house. You can do these activities with their child around the dining room table or when they're folding laundry. This doesn't have to be one more thing that's added to their schedule. Instead, they can find ways to incorporate it into things that they're already doing. And we'll share with you some of those ideas moving forward. I like to think of phonemic awareness as playing word games or playing with words. It just gives the students and the parents the freedom to manipulate words and to change words and to make up silly words. It gives them that freedom to just play. So parents are going to ask, how do I do this with my child at home? There are two main things that we would like you to take away to share with parents today, if you believe it's something you can use with them. First of all, we would really encourage you to talk to the parents about mouth awareness when you're talking about phonemic awareness with children. The way your mouth moves helps students understand the difference between sounds. When you're making the mm sound versus the t sound, your mouth moves in different ways. Encouraging students and parents to think about mouth awareness may help them have a better understanding of sounds. Many speech therapists for years have had students looking at mirrors when they're making sounds so that they can actually see the formation of those sounds with their mouth. And to go along with that, how do parents do that? Our parents are not teachers. They haven't had years of training. So we went through and found a method that is very simple for parents. It's very easy to understand, and it's something they can do anywhere. It's the I do, we do, you do method. So I do the activity, I model it for you, then we do it together, and then of course you as the student do it. You as teachers already know that. However, parents may not understand exactly what that means. So we found a very simple YouTube clip that you could share with parents. It's only 2 minutes long. It is not a long video at all. It's actually very simplistic. It's a tree, and there's an adult bird on the tree and some baby birds on the tree. And it goes through showing the I do, we do, you do method. Again, not something that you necessarily need to know as a teacher. However, parents may not know where to start. So sharing this simple activity with them may help them feel more confident in providing instruction for their child at home. So we've broken down the activities that we're sharing with you today into these 5 different categories. And we've taken these categories from the Letters program. So if you're familiar with that program, you can go and find more information on that. You may even have it at your fingertips. But we've broken our activities today down into words, syllables, alliteration, onset and rhyme, and phoneme activities. So what we've done in the upcoming slides is Becky and I went through and we found 2 activities that you could share with parents to have them do with their students in these areas. Now, keeping in mind, we said that the best practice guideline was for kindergarten to 1st grade to have 45 minutes of instruction total a day, and 2nd and 3rd grade only 60 minutes. So this probably isn't going to be something that you give your students to do every day. You may give them one small 5-minute activity 2 times a week, 3 times a week, whatever fits your schedule and your district's recommendations. These are just some ideas to get you started. You don't have to go out and hunt for these ideas on the internet. You have a few to get you started while you can spend time then working on other things or building up activities for future times. So let's go through and take a look at some of these activities. Again, probably nothing brand new to you as an educator, but the resources are there for you to share with parents. So the first section that we have are word activities. And again, we're talking about the students playing with some words, counting words in an oral sentence. Maybe you have them remembering words in a sequence. Good old finger plays that we used to do when we were younger. Working with nursery rhymes and talking about rhymes in words and in stories, songs, poems, all of these things that would probably be pretty easily accessible to parents if they needed them. They might not even need access. Many parents, all of us know nursery rhymes. They can do nursery rhymes with their students. But what we've included on this slide are some clips that you could share with parents to give them an idea of how to do these things at home with their child. The next section, we talked about syllable activities. And in this section, we have songs by Jack Harmon. If you're interested in sharing those, clapping syllable games. There are a variety of different ways that people add motions into syllable activities. There's clapping, there's tapping. Some people tap down their arm and break syllables up that way. Students love doing syllables with family names or animals or common objects. One game that I used to play with my students in the classroom was 4 corner syllables. And it's something that parents could easily do at home. Rooms have 4 corners. On one piece of paper, I would write a 1 and put it in one corner, 2 in another, 3 in another, 4 in another. Give this child a word and they run to that corner to match the corresponding number. So if it was a 1-syllable word, they'd run to the poster that said 1. If it was a 4-syllable word, they'd run to the poster that said 4. Could even do this outside. I'm sure parents are searching for ways to keep their kids active and keep them moving. So by adding motion and activity into these activities, first of all, the kids are hopefully learning. And secondly, might tire them out a little bit, which I'm sure moms and dads at this point would not be against. All right. Then we have some alliteration activities. There are some clips with some different Peter Piper activities. But with our alliterations, we're talking about tongue twisters. Kids love to try tongue twisters and try and say them faster and faster. They like to come up with their own tongue twisters based on the names of their family members. Make it fun, just some ideas to share with parents. With our onset and rhyme, again, a lot of programs do onset and rhyme hand motions. Of course, that's great if parents know a hand motion or they have seen a YouTube clip. They can make up their own as well, putting the onset and rhyme together using fists they tap together for cat, k, at, cat, and then they put them together. Working with word families. Again, they could make word family houses out with sidewalk chalk on their driveways. They're staying 6 feet away from their neighbors, but they can be out there doing these things at home. Another way that we had discussed doing it is just coming up with rhyming words, sitting around the dinner table, someone pick up an item, spoon, everybody goes around the table and says a word that rhymes, spoon, moon, soon, noon. Just simple ways to tell parents to add this information into their day. Then we have phoneme activities. Of course, if you're using terms like CVC words, you might want to explain to parents what that CVC means. This clip that we have added here is a cute clip of a little guy who they have home touch lights, those security lights for like in closets and things, and he's tapping out and lighting up the lights for each of the phonemes in the word. Parents may not have those lights available. That's fine. They can tap on the floor. They can tap on their knee. They can slide chips. Anything that parents have. The video, the YouTube clip, is just a way to show parents what we're talking about so they have a better understanding of how they can do this at home. But any household item is something that could easily be used. So how do I share this information with parents? Now you have some different clips. You have some different items that you could share with your families. How do I get them out to families? So we have here at the IU, and I'm sure many schools do as well, they're holding online office hours. If parents have a question, they can come to you. They can ask you, what do you mean when you say CBC words? They can pop in for a quick question and pop back out. When I think of office hours, I think of a quick in and out, not something where parents are going to stay and linger. It's a chance for them to come and talk to you. Keeping that in mind, not all families may have easy access to online office hours. Maybe you need to make yourself available in the old-fashioned phone, the one that calls and rings at your house, and everybody looks at it like, what's that? What's that sound? Because nobody uses their house phone anymore. But some people may need to do that. Sharing this information on a variety of different virtual platforms. Your school district may have a system that is already set up that works well for your schools and families. Use it. You can share this information, Seesaw, Class Dojo, Zoom. There are many, many different ways to do that. I also found out, which I did not know prior to a week ago, that a lot of Xboxes and game stations can be hooked up to virtual platforms so that parents and families can get the information that way. And if you look at the LearnOn website, they actually have directions on how to do that. So again, thinking outside of the box on how to get a hold of our families. And of course, it's not probably the best way, but sometimes you might just need to make that paper copy and send it home. Now, of course, you want to really minimize the paper you're sending because it costs more and all of those things. And your district may have some guidelines for how to do that, but some families may need to receive items in a paper format. And if you are putting a paper format, see if you can add a picture. What does a hand motion look like? What is an example, or what is an example of how you could play this game? They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and sometimes it really is. So maybe adding those little clips, not something that maybe you'd need to send home every time, but if you send one paper or one packet with that information on it, then the parents have it and can refer back to it at a later time. We're also really encouraging teachers and grade levels and groups of educators to work as teams. What you're undertaking right now is a huge process and a huge amount of work and thinking through. See if you can work together and support one another. We've talked to some different districts who are doing things in different ways. So of course you have to follow your district guidelines. But some examples, one district is having out of their, let's say it's their 3rd grade team, one of those teachers is in charge of providing all of the instruction for 1 week. And then they have the next however many weeks off, not off, but not planning the instruction as another team member takes it over. So Mrs. Smith is planning all of the instruction for this week, while Mr. Little and Mrs. Miller are gathering things for the next 2 weeks, and then they just rotate around. Some districts are deciding to work as a team if there are 6 kindergarten teachers. This teacher is going to be in charge of phonemic awareness activities for this week. This teacher is going to be in charge of math. This teacher is going to be in charge of reading, writing, whatever it happens to be. So they're cutting the workload and sharing it among each other. And as much as collaboration is wonderful and we love it, it is certainly more challenging during these times. So you may have to think of creative ways to do that. And not to be a downer on the situation, but with the COVID-19 illness going around and with the projections of how many people may get it, at some point, some of your teammates might not be available to provide instruction for a few days or a week. So by having that team effort, you can help each other out and keep the instruction more streamlined for students if in fact someone on your team is unavailable for a certain amount of time. So here we are, there's Becky, there I am. Becky has been monitoring the question and answer. Before I put Becky and our faces up there so that you can see us, we do want to remind you that when you go to the LearnOn site, and I think Becky's going to dump some of these things into the chat, you will be able to fill out an evaluation about this webinar. There you can see it up at the top, the LearnOn web eval. We'd love to hear back from you, hear what you thought went well, what you'd like us to work on. You can also, and will be redirected to the Act 48 site so that you can get credit for attending this webinar with us. And again, as I said earlier in the presentation, Becky and I will be available for office hours from 11 to 12 today. If you have any questions, concerns, we're not saying that we have all the answers, but we're more than willing to be thought partners with you, to talk through problems, ideas. Just another set of ears and brains seems to be very helpful. So we'd love for you to join us if possible. All right, so I am going to quickly turn on the video, and if Becky wants to as well, we can answer any questions that may have come up, but we only have like 3 more minutes until we need to leave the room. So let's see. So hi everybody, I'm Jess Miller. Becky's on there. Becky, did we?
I'm here.
There's Becky.
Good morning, everybody. Jess, we had a few questions that came up that we were able to answer, mostly about my ineptitude with technology. I apologize. Thankfully, Nicole was able to save me. We just had a couple questions about time frames and how to manage those, which we answered.
Could you maybe share one or, I'm sorry, could you share maybe 1 or 2 of the ways that you suggested for people to deal with those time issues?
The question actually came from someone who is working with AP classes at high school. And so, of course, the expectations for time are very different in that case. And of course, we're not going to expect elementary kids, kindergartners, first, second graders to be extended the same way as an AP course would be. But we also encouraged her to really focus on what's key at that time, pick the key concepts and skills, and kind of eliminate the extraneous at that point. We do have a comment from Leah. Thank you, Leah, that Haggerty Phonemic Awareness has YouTube videos for week 21 lessons that students can do and won't need their parents to figure out how to teach these skills. They're 9 to 12 minutes long. Leah, if you're willing to send that link in the question and answer, I will move it over to the chat so everyone can see that, please.
And Leah, I saw also that Haggerty had some good videos that described things like blending and segmenting to parents, not necessarily a lesson that they would do for students, but some background information that parents might want about what does blending mean, what does isolating mean, that type of thing. So they would be a good resource as well. All right. Thank you all for joining us today. We need to vacate the room pretty quickly because the next webinar will be coming in. But again, Becky and I will be available for office hours. If you go to the LearnOn website and you scroll down through the day's activities, you can click on and it will send you directly to our Zoom room where we will hold office hours starting at 11. So thank you very much for joining us, and keep fighting the good fight. You're doing the best you can for your students, and we appreciate all of your hard work. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.